in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am very excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, Jessica Swank. She is the Chief People Officer at Box. Jessica, thank you so much for being here. If you want to share a little bit about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, Christina, thank you so much for this conversation, for all the work that you and AllVoices do on behalf of all our communities and cultures around the world. So just incredibly excited to be here and have this dialogue today. As you mentioned, my name is Jessica Swank, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And so I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, which is at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. And I was a total tomboy growing up. I love the outdoors. I was super active. I loved playing sports. And so I really growing up, wanted to do something around sports. And yet I also was always super fascinated with people. So my mom, from an early age, I remember talking to her about the Myers-Briggs, and personality types and what made people the way they were. And so what I wanted to do for a long time was to be a sports psychologist, to kind of blend my passion for sports and blend my passion for people. And yet I found as I was going through it that I'm a very action and results oriented person, and I don't really like sitting on the sidelines. I really love like being in the game. And so I actually decided not to pursue the PhD and instead go to business and be able to integrate a lot of my passion for people and leadership and culture into a work environment.
I love that. I mean, you're definitely directly in the game right now, and there's so much going on, so much happening all at once. And I have so many questions about your day to day, but I would love to ask too, what would you say defines you, Jessica, as a person? For folks who are listening, Jessica's wearing a Make Mom Proud shirt as well. So I just wanted to ask you that question too.
Yeah. So Make Mom Proud, I'll start there. So we at Box we have very specific and awesome values. And one of them is Make Mom Proud. And also we've been evolving that to say, not all of us are fortunate to have a mom. So it's whoever that might be for you. I'm very fortunate that I do have a mom who I love and adore and has been a huge influence in my life. And so when I think about, what defines me, my family, first and foremost, it has, and it will continue to. We didn't grow up with much, but my mom used to always say we're rich in love. And so I think another thing that defines me is that real belief that doing good as individuals, as communities, as companies really can create good, and that it's that symbiotic relationship between really trying to have an impact wherever we go. And I would say another one is this. I worked really hard growing up. I had my first job at age 11. I worked Sofro fabric at age 13. Like I've just had a real history of like just always trying to work and learn and grow and not have circumstances define me. So I would say those are a couple of elements that probably just make me a little bit who I am today.
I love that. I think that's so important to ask who we are inside and also outside of work too. And I know that some companies are really looking for ways to really make more of an impact, and we're seeing a lot of innovation in the space. And I'm sure you're working on many of these, but what is the kind of current problem you are trying to solve?
No, lots of opportunities. I'm a big believer that, challenges are opportunities. And so I think one that I think is very real is this hybrid work and hybrid world. And so we at Box, not only our product, which enables, hybrid and remote work, but also as communities. And so we are really focused on trying to be the best hybrid workplace in the world, which means, how do we have thriving communities for in-office, in-person connection community? And yet, how do we really cultivate a dispersed environment, both globally, so we have offices around the world, but also those who might be working from home or working, more flexible hours. And so I do think I think this is a great experiment across all of our industries right now. I don't think anybody has necessarily figured it out, but we're really committed to trying, piloting, and I'm sure, and I'm very interested in for all of us to kind of continue thinking and learning and sharing across industries, across companies, because I think from what I talk to with my peers and colleagues, Box is, I don't think, unique in this, but definitely top of mind for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would definitely want to talk about what it means to be the best, how you're cultivating an environment where people can thrive, especially with kind of the great reset or reshuffle and people really
Yeah.
figuring out what they want to spend kind of their life working on as well. And they're really looking with a fine tooth comb on what that means. I want to ask you kind of from your perspective, what are qualitative and quantitative ways we can actually measure company culture? What is top of mind for you?
Yeah. So I think the first one is setting clear expectations and really defining what does that mean. So we have what we call our box leader mindsets. And so those are four elements. It means business, teams, self, and community. And so within those, we talk a lot about it's not only what you do. So we expect, yes, delivering fantastic results, but how you do it is equally important. And so those leader mindsets and our values are the foundation. And so what we really try and do is to really think about, okay, what does that look like? And so we set the expectations and then we try and measure it, to your point, Christina. So we do a annual, what we call our Boxer Experience Survey, or BES, and then we take those results and we drive some kind of macro company-wide themes and action plans by quarter. And then we also do kind of the bottoms up, the grassroots by manager, by teams, by function, so that we, again, try and that, continuous learning mindset of try and continually improve, make a difference. And I think, there's also, wonderful, it's always nice when you get external accolades or external recognition. So I think there's the Great Places to Work or Glassdoor rankings. There's a lot of external measurements, but I find those are sometimes backwards looking and they're a point in time. So I am a big believer that those cannot define a culture, but hopefully they can, at least maybe reflect it. I think too, some measurement, we do a lot around, making sure that it's not a one-time conversation. So all active communication ongoingly. So we have almost every Friday, we have what we call a Friday lunch, which is a company-wide session where we always have Q&A. So there's always this opportunity to ask real questions to our CEO, Aaron Levy, our executive team. We also look and think a lot about our exit surveys and looking at why do people stay, but then why do they leave? And we're again really focused on creating lifetime boxers. And so, we recognize that, a boxer might leave for personal or professional reasons, but we really want to cultivate that long-term relationship. So again, I think we look at a lot of these elements, both anecdotally, but also then specifically with the data to really help us think about what does that engagement and culture look like.
Yeah, absolutely. That continuous conversation, as we're talking about, from when someone starts as, a Box team member, why they're staying, why they're leaving, and making sure that, we're asking for continuous feedback is really important too. And then that accessibility to leadership, to ask questions, get context behind the why for decision making too. In terms of connections, I would say one of the connections that always comes up with employees is kind of that connection to their manager. They're talking
Yes.
to them on a more regular basis than perhaps other team members or the chief people officer, the CEO, the organization. From your perspective, what is your philosophy around training and providing resources to new managers who might not be coming in with experience leading teams and they were just fantastic individual contributors and now they want to kind of lean into that manager role?
Yeah, it's a really important and great question, Christina, because I think managers are so at the heart of culture and of a company. And so we actually are very intentional. So we have a number of ways that we do this. Again, kind of going back to, we have our leader mindset. So we try and be very clear and set clear expectations of what does, a good leader look like at Box. We also have, as part of our new hire orientation, we try and really immerse new boxers into what it means to be a boxer and what that will then mean as a new manager. We've also, this past year, kind of revamped what we call our Accelerate program. And our Accelerate program is an opportunity for either new managers, new to management, so first-time managers, whether they're promoted within Box usually, or new managers to Box, maybe they have management experience externally. We do a very robust multi-month and multi-quarter development and learning opportunity, because again, we really believe that that's incredibly important. And then we actually also believe in ongoing manager development and manager conversation. So we have a monthly, what we call Manager Power Hour for all managers, where it's all about an opportunity to come together, make sure that we're sharing, informing, having that two-way conversation, that they build that community amongst themselves. We have what we call our Xlt community, which is all of our directors and above that we bring together, usually on a monthly basis. We also, just this past week, had our annual, what we call our Box Leaders Day, which is again where we bring in all of our Box leaders around the world to really make sure everybody's set on what is our company strategy, what is the alignment across all the different functions, and how does their leadership and management play really a significant impact on our success as a company. So we have coaching, we have development. So there's a lot that we do to try and really cultivate awesome managers.
I love that. I like that's a very holistic approach. There are multiple different touch points for learning, development, and also cohort-based learning as well from other people who are currently managing and have managed for many years, or are also new managers too, a place to ask questions and learn from each other.
Sure.
One of the other kind of pieces to being a manager is you're managing folks who might be in different kind of time zones, or you're managing folks who are like, they want to give and receive feedback differently. And part of being a manager is making sure people feel like they belong and that their voice matters on the team as well. How do you empower folks across the organization to really practice that equity-driven leadership?
Yeah, I love that. Well, again, we really believe that everybody's a leader. So even if you don't have like a manager or you manage people, we can all be leaders. And so we focus a lot on peer-to-peer communication. So one of our values is be candid, assume good intent. So that continuous feedback cycle is incredibly important. We also do a tons with what we call our employee resource communities, or our ERCs. We have 10 of these globally. And this is also a great way to have that, kind of equity driven leadership, again, hearing diverse voices. We also do a lot to try and bring data and insight into that conversation as we think about decision making. So yes, we want the feedback, we want the anecdotal, but we want the data, and be able to marry those to really inform the voices and some of the decision making. And I think, I mentioned earlier our Boxer Experience Survey. We use that throughout the year as well, to make sure that the feedback, that managers have their plan, that they're trying to continue to learn and improve as individuals, but as teams, as functions, as communities. So again, we really try and take a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, and absolutely. Having that growth mindset, you can always learn something new, learn something different, and really kind of upskill there. And I definitely agree with you that there are formal and informal leaders at the organization, whether they're managers, executives, or employee resource group leaders, or just someone who is really has that ownership mentality as well. Everybody is part of that company culture. I'm sure that over the past kind of 2 years, there have been ideas and like positive, negative, constructive, anything in between kind of feedback about all of the changes we're seeing in the world of work. And I want to ask you how you see employee feedback management as a really important tool to continually, again, building that culture of listening, and how do you see that kind of culture manifesting at Box across the organization?
Yeah, again, this is so incredibly important. I've mentioned a couple of these, but just to reinforce, I think one of the things that's special about Box is that we still are a founder-led organization. And so we still have two of our original founders, co-founders, our CEO, Aaron Levy, and our Chief Financial Officer, Dylan Smith, who are amazing role models, and they set that tone where we're very flat and we're very kind of open. I would say we're very like very low ego environment. So I think we have that just very flat startup mentality where we want everybody to have a voice. And so, as I mentioned, we have the formal, the boxer experience surveys. We also have ongoing what we call AMAs, or Ask Me Anything. So might be on a particular topic. Like we have our DE&I AMAs biannually. We have, as I mentioned, every Friday lunch where we use Slido, which is a tool, and people can ask any question, and you can either have your name attached to it, or even do it anonymously. But we answer all of them, and so again, just that real sense of openness. We don't want surprises. We want everybody to be bought into kind of where we are and the journey ahead. And then I also think that we have a couple of hackathons throughout the year where we also use it as an opportunity for everybody, again, across the company, to not only give that feedback, but then help create some solutions. And we've actually implemented a number of the recommendations that have come through those hackathons.
I love that. I used to work at an organization where we did hackathons, and it was one of my favorite days because there was so much, I don't know, creative ideas, design thinking, and really implementing all kind of the changes and the features that we saw as well, working with customers and talking to folks too. One of the ways that you mentioned kind of getting feedback too is if someone wanted to associate their name with it or not. And some people are a little hesitant to give that as an option to provide feedback. And I want to ask you kind of why it is important to offer avenues for anonymous feedback as well.
Well, yeah, this is a tricky one, because of course I would personally love it if everybody was comfortable sharing, and that we had that culture. And yet I think, as you said so aptly, some people are just maybe not as comfortable, or there's different levels of that. So we want to respect that. Is actually a total plug for AllVoices. It's actually one of the reasons why we've loved AllVoices, because I think it allows that. And so to me, we want the feedback, we want to grow, we want to learn as an organization. And so, yes, we would rather have, create the space where people can share it, whether to their manager or to their people partner or their leader. But there might be opportunities where we need that safe space for some of the more sensitive topics to be able to come up and be handled and dealt with as effectively as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely providing that psychological safety and kind of level for it to provide any type of feedback. People might be comfortable raising their hand in an all hands or coming directly to their manager on day one yet. So really being intentional with your strategy there. I'm sure there are also many examples of this, but can you share kind of how employee feedback has really informed or inspired a change in a policy, strategy, or initiative at Box recently?
Yeah, well, I think a great example is, I mentioned we do hackathons. And so on an annual basis, we have what we call our Global Impact Day, which is one of actually my favorite days out of the year. It's where everyone around the world is invited to either hack or act, or both. And so not this past one in December, but a year ago, actually, one of the recommendations was actually on our values, on this one, Make Mom Proud. And the feedback was, hey, we love it. However, not everybody has a mom. And so, how do we create more inclusivity with that? And so we've adjusted it. It's not on my t-shirt, but we've added an asterisk after mom to say mom, or who you value most, the person in your life. And so again, I think mom can be symbolic, but we also want to recognize that it's much bigger than that. And so I think that's a great example of where, a really important voice was able to be heard, and then we were able to take action and actually drive change.
I love that. I think that it's so important. It's also something that is the foundation of how everybody kind of works within an organization too, because it's part of your values, and making sure that people feel like they are seen and heard is also really critical to a great employee experience.
Yeah.
Also seen so much innovation in the people space, which has been absolutely incredible. I would love to know, can you tell me about a system that you kind of redesigned over the past 2 or 3 years as well? I know hybrid is one of them, but wanted to ask too.
Yeah, I think what's great about this is it's probably easier to talk about ones that haven't changed, just because
Yeah.
over the past couple of years we've had to redesign. How do we interview? How do we hire? How do we
Right.
onboard? How do we train? How do we develop? And so I think one of the things that we have really done well is we have revamped our kind of what we call now our career frameworks. And so we align to our box, the leader mindset that I spoke about earlier. We went through the very detailed exercise to define by level, by function, what does that look like? Again, setting clear expectations and alignment on what is the expectational level. So not only what does that mean for your current role, but as you think about developing, as you think about growth opportunities and where you might want to lean in, we try and really articulate what that looks like. And then we have mapped on kind of a learning journey as well. So we have what we call Learn Fest, which is 4 times a year. And that's a week where we try and say, hey, do at least one thing of learning. So we have formal training, Make Mom Proud training, unconscious bias training. We have a lot of different sessions. And so what we also try and say is, hey, if you are in this function at this level today, here are some opportunities for you to match some development and some growing opportunities. So I would say that's one where we have really evolved over the last 18 months.
Yeah, career development is also something that we know there's a ton of research out there that people want to know that their manager and the company and is invested in their kind of growth and kind of building of skills too. So again, really great example there in terms of just like the company culture, especially in a hybrid environment. You can't be in the room in all of these different meetings and all different departments, especially as the company continues to grow and scale as well. How do you kind of best prepare for quote unquote not being caught off guard by what's happening in different areas of the business? For example, if someone needs more kind of manager training or so empowering folks to speak up to you.
Yeah, and going back to our earlier conversation, Christine, it's this constant ongoing communication. And so again, we have the macro ones at the company wide, our weekly what we call Friday lunch. We have quarterly all hands, but also we have a annual performance kind of review. Actually, we're going through that season right now across the company, but we also highly encourage quarterly sync conversations. And so that is an opportunity, I think, on a quarterly basis to talk about the OKRs, the what, and then also the leader mindsets, the how, and really be clear on where people are at, what are their current challenges, opportunities, and their growth. We also have implemented this past year what we call executive roundtables. So we have one of our e-staff leaders once a month lead a roundtable on a particular topic with kind of a diverse set of boxers around the world to kind of get that kind of a different voice and perspective. We have just again a real big focus on open culture communication, and so we really encourage our boxers to bring it up to their managers, bring it up to their people partners, submit it on AllVoices if they're not comfortable, whatever that feedback is. And then we really try and collate that and really draw out what are some of the themes. Is it a, kind of a topic that we need to address more holistically, or is it a particular issue with a particular boxer that we need to find a solution to?
Mm-hmm. That data-driven approach, taking all of the qualitative data, the quantitative data as well, and kind of picking out those trends on an ongoing basis, definitely makes sense. In terms of, I know something that is important to the organization as well is just the community commitment. How does Box really make the communities we live and work in better together? I know this is something that also employees really care about too. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I love this question. So actually, our organization is called People and Communities. And so the scope of work that I'm day-to-day involved in is not only kind of the core people side, but it is also all of our community work, as well as communications, internal communications. And so that community mindset as one of our 4 leader mindsets. It is fundamental to, again, how we think about how we integrate community into all that we do. And so we have, through Corey Conrad's fabulous leadership this past year, we've really tried to look at, what are some of the themes that we want to run across, kind of macro themes on our community efforts. And so the 3 from this year are be a good neighbor, digital transformation, and diverse tech pipeline. And so those 3 kind of inform almost all that we do. And again, then there's, a lot of, if the individual boxer has an individual, area of passion, we build that community. But we really try and, again, take that holistic view. So, what can we do at a company-wide level? As I mentioned earlier, our Box Impact Day. We also have Deed, which is a online platform for giving. We do a lot around giving back, not only our time, but also financially.
Right.
It is, and then I think we have a real close partnership with our partners, with our customers. Our nonprofits are a huge segment of our business, and an area that we really try and put a lot of focus to. So again, we really believe that our impact on our Box community, our local communities, as well as our external communities, is not only kind of an opportunity, but also even a responsibility for each of us.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And also, it sounds like there's a 360-degree approach in terms of the investment in time and financially long-term partnerships. And also, you mentioned internally with employees for giving back, and also with customers and with people that are interacting with Box on a day-to-day basis, which is really great too. What would you say, knowing what we know now about kind of successful leaders and kind of using that broad term for people leaders in every sense of the word, what would you say they need to incorporate in their strategy today to be successful in the future, be great people leaders? From your experience, what have you kind of seen work best?
Yeah, I have said this, but I'll say it again. I think, the art of the and delivering incredible results. So being able to execute, especially in the face of so much challenge and so much change, but how you do it, I think, matters more now, and hopefully will continue that trend. So again, being a good, leader, and, no matter where your role is, it's, how you do that, how you show up. Are you able to be thoughtful, to be empathetic, to be more mindful of the realities of our, the employees, our boxers, everywhere. So again, I think that, and then embracing change. I think, all the dogs of the only constant is change, because, as we, reimagine, as we rebuild, as we redefine, what work looks like, especially post, pandemic, it is, there is going to continually be change. And I think that opportunity to help define it versus being resistant to it, and just looking backwards.
Absolutely. I'm constantly reminded that change is ever present and we can't predict the future, but we got to work with what we have right now. So I think that also definitely makes sense. And I know that Box is a global organization, as you were talking about, and here in the United States for February 2022, we are honoring and celebrating Black History Month. So I wanted to know how Box is really taking on the celebration in an authentic and genuine way with your employee resource group, and also just at a company at large.
Yeah, it's a really important month on many levels, but we actually, for Black History Month, we have a number of activities going on. So one are what we call our Black Excellence Network, or BEN. They have been at the forefront of driving a lot of this, but again, what we believe is it's up to all of us. And again, that allyship, but with action, is incredibly important. And so we have a number of events scheduled throughout the month, including fireside chats with really prominent and successful Black leaders. We're doing a lot around history. And so, we've been trying to think about, remembering and acknowledging the incredible leaders who have influenced us today, leading up to this point in time, and looking forward. Again, you'll see in my background, we have a number of backgrounds as Zoom to just again acknowledge, recognize that. And then at Friday lunch, throughout all of February, we're having a spotlight on a particular person or a particular event, just again to build it into and make sure that it's integrated. I also, though, I think it's incredibly important, as special and important as Black History Month is, it's not just about them 1 month a year. To me, it's a spotlight, but for us, it's incredibly important that it's not about a moment or a particular point in time, but it's how do we integrate it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, this conversation of allyship, of action, of learning, and how do we again come together to really drive that change.
Absolutely. I think that for a lot of kind of panels that I've seen around Black History Month, which is really great, one of the questions is how to authentically kind of celebrate and honor. And you're right, celebrating and making sure that you're integrating strategies into your day-to-day 365 days a year is really crucial to that part. And it sounds like there's a lot of programming, education, and celebration spotlights of employees and leaders happening at Box. Jessica, I know that we talked about a variety of different topics from kind of investing in your managers. What does it mean to really build a really great company culture? Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to share with our audience listening, or maybe underscore 1 to 2 key takeaways you hope they bring with them?
Yeah, I think one, again, these are such important conversations, and our ability to, I think, really have and talk about and embrace the topics of the day, both the challenges and the opportunities. So again, just a huge thank you, Christina, and the team. One of the values that I haven't yet had mentioned is bring your blank self to work. And I think that has been a value, and I think it's more important now than ever, just because the reality is that I think before maybe it was like, hey, leave your personal life at the door when you come
Right.
into work. And I think those days are just gone. And so I think just that recognition that we all have something incredibly special to bring, and yet we all have the realities behind the Zoom background or behind the door. And so how do we again integrate our personal lives, our professional lives, and really just make sure that we're driving the impact, not only again this moment of time, but ongoing in the best way that we can.
Making that positive, sustainable impact, making sure people feel heard, seen, and understood throughout the year. Jessica, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture afternoon. I enjoyed our conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina. Take care.
Of course. And as a reminder for folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we really believe in the employee feedback management as a requirement for the organization to succeed overall. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.